Hey guys, what's going on? Andrew coming at you. I hope you are doing well. I'm doing well. Let me move this microphone a little bit closer to me here. Okay, that should be better. And I thought it would be fun to talk about the difference between Swedish schools and American schools. I work in education, and obviously I'm not going to talk about particulars with my job for obvious reasons. But I was going to talk about just the differences that I've seen. And I'm going to talk about this in an approach where I'm not saying one is better than the other, but just strictly talking about the differences. And the reason for that is because I think when it comes to education, there comes to a lot of factors. For example, one style of education might work for you or another person, and then a different philosophy might work perfectly for somebody else. Now, I do think there's some things that we know in education that work better than others. For example, if you're going to study or something, usually short bursts of studying, like 20 minutes at a time, is much more beneficial than just pulling an all-nighter and trying to get through everything. A lot of factors I think that affect education as well are socioeconomic, what your home situation is like, how supportive are your parents of it, do your parents read to you at home, do you read? So it has a lot of factors as well that will be successful. So basically, if your parents really value education, there's a good chance that you will as well. So that's the little spiel there. But as far as differences between education in Sweden and in the United States, one I would say that is really one that I can see a lot of the times that is different. It has to do with having the choice of what school you want to go to. Now, there's a queue for schools, so you have to try to get into the school, but you basically can pick any school that you want to go to if you can get into that school and interview that school. So if you're Swedish, you can go to a school. Of course, have to get a place in the school or get in a queue at that school. But if you go to a school and you don't think it's right for you, you have the chance to move to a different school. There are commune schools that you can go to. There's free schools that you can go to, and other schools that you have choice. So you have a lot more choice. Where I would say in the United States, you do have private schools, which will cost you money, and I'm sure that private schools exist in Sweden as well. But you're pretty much stuck going to the school that is in your community, because in the United States, you're paying the taxes or the tax money goes to the area from your school. And that's another thing that can be interesting in the United States, because if you come from a really poor area, and I saw this, for example, when I was in Ohio, when I was studying there, that Ohio has some of the richest schools and then some of the poorest schools, like right next to each other, just based on the economics and things like that. But basically, if you grow up in a poor area and you're poor in the United States, you're probably not going to have the best education. Now, it depends on different areas. I've been to some areas with problems where it was, well, that's just something that's interesting, and you would have a hard time getting out. So if you grow somewhere that's poor, you're probably not going to have the best quality education. So that's something. And I don't think anywhere in the world, if you go to one school, it's going to be 100% equal to the other school. But that's one thing that I've definitely noticed is different. Another thing is that the grading systems between both countries are different. In Sweden, you still have like A, B, C, D, those kind of grades. But there's a grade called E. So how it works in a lot of ways, if you look at criteria, and criteria is like something you're going to work on. Maybe you're going to do something particular with like a math problem or something like that. You have to, E is like you've shown enough knowledge to pass. And then you have what's called a C level and like an A level. And then you have the in-betweens there, I guess, if you're going to do grading. So in Swedish grading system, you're still going to have A, B, C, D, and then E, and then F. The difference being, though, is at least in the U.S. system, you just use A, B, C, D, and F. And you basically would take a test or get marked at anything, and if you get 90 to 93% or above of those questions right, you've earned an A. So a lot of it has to be an accumulation of everything, where in the Swedish system, you show a knowledge requirement. So, for example, you might do something and pass it, and as long as you've shown knowledge, let's say you showed something in an A criteria that you're working on, a math problem or something else, once you've shown it and on that subject you have that knowledge, and it's hard, you don't have to maybe show that every single time based on a system, where the American system is more, you're just your results. basically straight down. Not you show the knowledge, you have that one chance, and then you take the test. So that's one thing that is definitely different as well. I want to say as well that I feel that in Sweden, students have a lot more say to what their education is. So that's something that I found interesting. A lot more say than I think you would in the U.S. system, such as students taking surveys and parents taking surveys to express how they feel about the school. That's something that's different that I didn't really experience so much in the United States. Of course, an obvious one when we talk about the differences between both schools has to do with, even university level in Sweden is free, and you have to pay for your education in the United States. One thing I will say, though, and I'm not saying should education in the United States be free or not, what I will say is I do think an American degree, I think a Swedish degree is really good as well, but I think an American degree is good. I think it's nice to have. I think it's well respected around the world, but most people like myself, when you graduate school in the United States, you're already $50,000, $60,000 in debt. And that's before you get your first job, in a sense. So it can be a lot. It can be a little bit stressful as well. So that's another thing I can say. In Swedish schools, you have like 1 through 5. I think usually it'll be like 1 through 5. But when you get to year 9, then you are technically done with school unless you go to gymnasium. Now, most everybody goes to gymnasium, which is like the United States version of high school. And but in year 9, your results and what you do kind of help you to get into the gymnasium. So whereas year 9 in the United States is kind of like your first year in high school for most people in the United States, it seems to be a little bit that, and I would say year 9 in the United States isn't really that big of a deal, but in here it's a lot. I would say it's more pressure to get into the school that you want. So although school technically stops in Sweden at 15 or 16, if you're in year 9, most people choose to continue the school on into gymnasium, which would be our high school. Another difference I find between both schools in the United States, and this is something that I think is really cool, is that sports and activities are one with the school. And this is why I think is really good. In a lot of ways, it's just because practice can start right after school. Depending on what you did, I remember doing track and field in middle school, for example. Middle school would be year 6 to 9, and like taking a bus to the track and field and then going and doing that stuff there. And it's really nice because it's just connected with the school. And so what's been nice about that is, let's say you play football or something else. If your grades are bad, or maybe you didn't do something well in school, or you're misbehaving, you won't be able to play the sports unless you do that. And so I like that the athletics in the United States and the academics work together in a lot of ways. Of course, there can be negatives with that. Like, you look at universities and you can see people that play football, college football, that are maybe not that good in college as far as their grades, and then kind of getting pushed through. But I think at least at the high school level, for a lot of people, it's really nice for them to get a chance to play sports by doing well in school, and a lot of times in maybe an inner city school or just somewhere else where someone, that's their way to get in the university is by playing sports as well. So another interesting thing that I have noticed along the way. So I hope you like this one. This would be like the major differences that I have seen between the two that I find to be interesting. One thing I will say is a similarity between both is still there's national tests in Sweden, and just as we have standardized tests in the United States as well. And that's all I will say about that. As far as the national test goes, I will maybe keep my opinions to myself with national tests. I just remember being a kid in the United States and not liking taking standardized tests. That's all I will say. I will keep that. But I hope you liked that. I hope you were able to take something away from this as far as the schooling being different, and realize that I'm basically just talking about how they're different and not really what's necessarily better. Because I don't think everything needs to be a competition, but I hope you guys did like this one. I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff because this is one I've been wanting to do for a while. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, feel free to give me a like. I'm doing a giveaway this month with PauseBox. PauseBox has a monthly snack service subscription base that you can get, and you can also get the licorice box. There'll be a link to both of those below as well if you want to check this out. Plus, if you want to just go ahead and go get the pause box, you can put my name, Andrew, in and get a rebate code below and save yourself some money and check it out. Wow, I think I made it through everything. If I missed anything, like I said, put it in the comments below. And for right now, I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.